Yes, yeah.
All right, so we are, everything on?
Yep, we're good.
There's something else for you to do. All right. But you'll have to do it in conjunction.
All right, so just for purposes of record, starting out with attendance, we have in the room with us Evan, Kelly, Sarai, Shelly, Brian, Ben, Pam, Nina, Linda, Paul from Bricker and Heckler,
Good job.
Jen,
Good job.
as well as myself, and we have our guest today, Tom. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so just for those who weren't here in our last meeting, we decided unanimously, we talked it through, decided on form of government. So,
I'm so proud that the meeting ended at 8:32. I saw
We were done at like 8:10, and I think the rest of us wanted to leave, but Rainey was like, no, we're staying.
all right, we'll get back to other things.
Well, I'm very proud.
But yes, we did, and I think that was amazing to get all of us to agree, so. And we have snacks, sorry. So, moving forward, our plan currently is to go through and tackle the different sections of the charter one a week. We're starting out with council this week. And we have, I hope everybody got it, a memo from Ricker Heckler just with the questions that we need to consider and work through. We're gonna talk them through tonight, and then Kelly, you graciously volunteered to be the writer. Make it all.
So what I'm hearing is that I don't have to write it as we go tonight, because that would be amazing.
Whatever makes you happy,
Okay.
you have to live with yourself if you want to do it later. All right, so did everybody? That's great. So Paul was kind enough to print out some copies of some things for us.
Just print out copies of that one.
Thank you.
I was gonna say,
And while
better
you're-
have it handed out.
I actually got it through, so we didn't bring it up. It'll be hard for me to take notes to that long stuff, but.
Does everybody, while I'm at it, have their binder? I seem to have some remaining. I think one of them is Evan. Not Evan, Eddie. Thank you. He will be joining us next week. Does everybody else got a binder? Okay. Here, I've got 3 binders. All right. Before I forget it again, meeting minutes from last meeting. We're supposed to do that at the beginning, so I've already forgotten that. So did everybody get a chance to read the meeting minutes from last meeting? Any questions or concerns?
Any corrections?
Did everybody have a chance to read them? Because I looked and I did not.
I didn't.
Do we want to defer for a week so that we can read them?
Are people really gonna read them? Or-
Oh,
I'm very excited to say,
Or you all
yay.
agree? Okay, then let's just.
I move to approve the minutes from last week.
All in favor?
So we need a second, so I'll second.
Okay, great, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? I will abstain. Shirley abstains. All right, approved.
Thank you.
All right, now on to good stuff. Really excited to get to good stuff here with going through the items for council. So Paul, tell me if I'm going about it the wrong way, but I was just gonna go through this list and
Yeah, I try to organize it in, kind of roughly the structure you oftentimes see in Article 3 pull out, so, defer to Kelly as the drafter, if he's got any special needs or concerns he wants to address, but, yeah, I think it makes sense to go down with.
Okay, so the first one is, besides a relatively standard list of council's powers, are there any specific powers that should be granted to or withheld from the council? So there are some examples provided in that packet of 4 charters. One is outlined, there are a couple different forms of government in there as well. But rather than hear myself talk the whole time, I'm just going to put it out to the group. What are your thoughts on powers of council?
Okay, so of course, I'll start. So my feelings on this, I actually think that we should have essentially equal powers, sort of, between council and the mayor, or only a ceremonial mayor, one or the other. I don't want the mayor to be able to break ties, right? But I also, I think we need more council members. And I'm gonna stop there.
What do you think would be the advantage of more council members, or what do you think is the drawback of less council members?
So we're getting ahead of ourselves.
So we're talking about how.
Yeah, we are. We're talking about that. Yeah.
So the first one on the list, like Ed wrote for, talks about the power to levy taxes and assessments. But aren't all, like levies ultimately voted on by the residents?
I don't know.
Well,
Well, I'm asking Paul.
I
mean, we
a new voted tax would have to be approved by the voters.
So we have several that are five, like small millage,
But, there are, I didn't look it up, but, most municipalities are getting some small percentage of there's 10 mils of unvoted property taxes that are
Correct.
almost always levied. It's split between school
I think what we
districts,
do.
township municipalities, stuff like that. So usually, Minerva Park is, I would presume, getting some unvoted millage.
Not much, I think most of it's voted millage. So
Right,
this is-
right, the problem, municipalities typically don't get a lot, the school districts are the ones that get the bulk of it.
Okay,
There's also the permissive tax on vehicle registration. So we can do 2 $5 per registration permissive tax.
Yeah.
We're currently doing that one.
that's the unvoted.
And that's an unvoted tax. So that would be, if we do not include that power, then a future council could not choose to enact that tax.
And I'm not saying not to do that, but just wondering if this was saying anything on, but I had forgot about the unvoted levies. I think we have a lot of unvoted that's still there.
how did we get them to unvoted?
I think of the state issue, the powers that are levy that out of the residents.
Up to 10 mils is possible.
That's what it's
That 10 mils is complicated.
So,
It used to be 15 mils, then back in the 1930s, it got dropped down to 10. And so what was that 15 is now divvied out proportionally 2/3 to,
So if we don't have a charter, who was the entity in the village? that-
well, the charter doesn't affect the
Village.
unvoted debt levy. And still, again, if you're doing a new voted levy, whether you have a charter or not, it's still, council
And they're voted.
would be the one voting to put that on the back.
Go to levy, the taxpayers of the village would have to go on the levy. So
It would go on the ballot for a year.
like $5 per,
You know, eligibility can just indicate that and vote it without any.
that you're already calling cars in my driveway.
I have a question.
You're already inside of per car for every year for the village now.
When I pay for my registration.
Your examples were helpful, I appreciate that very much, but they're not useful if I'm too ignorant to understand what they mean. So I have a couple of questions for you about that. Under the example on the growth board, I don't really understand what item 2 means. And why it's essential to reference it.
Well, again, the charter, you have to remember the constitutional framework that the reason you do a charter.
Yes.
The constitutional framework allows for municipalities to exercise local self-government, and by having a charter, that allows you to maximize your ability to exercise local self-government, as opposed to being stuck in a statutory framework, which is the village charter.
So in other words, there's no assumptions it has to be stated, or it has to be articulated that we'll have police and sanitation. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't get too hung up, honestly, on this first question. This list is pretty boilerplate.
It is,
Is it all
so, I'm
You're not
reading through it.
attorneys, how do we know?
I'm reading through it, of the examples that Paul gave us, the powers of council section is pretty uniform. I think maybe a good way for us to look at that subsection is, it's laying out the things that council can do at a kind of fundamental level. It's they're setting up, the council is who sets up the rules. Mayor is who is supposed to enforce and carry out those rules, if that makes sense.
Yeah, mayor or
Or the administrator or both,
Yes, it's-
yeah.
right, so that's down the road, you'll have to figure out the allocation of administrative responsibility between the mayor and the administrator.
But like, for example, the mayor is not going to try to put on a tax levy. That would be something that the council would do. The mayor is not going to, sorry, I'm just reading through, the mayor will not, on their own, buy property for the village. That's something that council would approve. That would have to involve council. So that's why you want to lay out, hey, this is what council's powers are.
Well,
Standard legislative functions.
Yeah.
Which you see basically reflected.
from that point of view then, if these are standard things, then to answer the question that's posed, it makes sense to me then to try to identify things that are currently being done that we don't want them to do. Then, let's say,
Kind of thing.
well, I don't know.
Or things
we-
that they
yes.
aren't doing that we would like them to.
Yes, I think we have a lot of information from the survey and from things that people have said and our own efforts. Let's identify, and now's our chance. Is there anything that we'd like to change to adjust in some way this template? Well, I get what you said, I do.
Let's run through the template and see what the template says they do, and then after that, say, well, here's the thing I think is missing. Or here's the thing I don't like.
You look at one, pretty much the council can do, it's like the last one, that it be. It says, a council can do all powers permitted by the five other constitutional laws of Ohio. And then it gives just 4 specific additional duties for council. It almost seems like council can do what you're allowed to do under the law, the general law, and then here's a specific enumerated one. But that's might that work so that the council has what they currently have, what powers they currently have under the current law and constitution, and then enumerate, would that make our job easier instead of just, I'm gonna guess, and I'm not the expert here, but I'm gonna guess that the state law provides that the council can levy taxes and stuff, and I expect that road board and some of these others took the stuff from the statute and plugged it in here, whereas someone just said, you got all the powers that you have under the Constitution, and then here's some additional.
But isn't that part of the problem that led to us wanting a charter in Minerva Park?
Well,
People don't know what all of the standard statutory
right,
powers are, so if we spell it out, then the average citizen can pull up the charter and say, hey, here's what council can do.
But I agree, but we could also elicit it, and we started the list. I can get back to it, but we could elicit, tell people, here's what the council has, what power they have under the current regime or whatever, the current situation we have. So let's keep those and then enumerate additional ones, or take away if we don't want council to do it.
Well, I think the problem was, right, that's what we're gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, one
I think
thing,
that's what I was trying to get at, is that's the whole point, is there was confusion about what you just suggested.
So if we end up at the end of this whole thing saying, here's an affidavit to sheriff, and here's what the council can do under the current law of the state against issue. If we put in the charter and you're gonna line by line, we're just gonna reiterate it.
One source, make it the primary source, you're building, you don't have to.
yeah, well, I don't know if I'd go quite that far, but I mean, I think one of the potential advantages, I don't want to overstate it, but is when you, by delineating some of these powers a little clearer, that, you know, if, say, the General Assembly was to maybe modify something in that area, the charter would help retain the council's ability to continue to operate in that sphere without potential interference from the General Assembly. Now, again, I don't want to overstate that, but that's, I think, the theory behind being a little bit more explicit on some of these things instead of just saying, yeah, you know, kind of whatever's in the statutes and these kind of things. I'm not trying to denigrate the way Dublin did it. I think that's why the other three have a little bit more of a wholesome list than Dublin. But I think if you boil it down, I mean, I really think at the end of the day, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between the ability of the council to act under any of those examples. So.
Do we have the ability to adjust, forfeiture of office?
That's it.
We do. I know. I'm just thinking about the things that I actually am significantly concerned about.
That is,
So I will say, having read through the powers of the council as laid out in the road rules and Pickering thing, the two basically read the same.
Yeah.
I don't care which one you read, copy, paste, and as far as powers of council go, I personally would be satisfied.
And
The only one
can I tag on to that and just say, you know, some of these, just, you know, in my experience with drafting through Sunbury, sometimes it's, when you haven't drafted yet, it's a little harder to anticipate all the things that could come up. So some of these, you may find that it's advisory to just say, we're gonna let Kelly take a crack at it.
Yeah.
We feel like, you know.
Come back later.
Yeah, come back later, you know, and if there's anything about questions that bubble up, then he can flag them for you at that time. Just a thought, you know, however you guys want to do it.
I also noticed,
I was gonna say, the only thing that I noticed different among that section of all of the examples provided was New Albany has the council appoints and removes the administrator to establish the administrator's compensation and to appoint active administrator when necessary. I think that applies when it's going to have the administrator. And none of the others I saw had that, so it just seemed like it was falling out.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you get to the administrator, you're gonna have to decide who's, you know, the mayor appointing the administrator.
Right,
or it's council.
that's a section that that's a clause that I wouldn't put in yet, until we've decided how we're handling our administrator. Right.
Okay.
So if everyone's okay with it for next week, for this, I'm gonna just do the standard kind of boilerplate and we'll come back to it as necessary as we deal with other sections.
I think that we're gonna have to, don't necessarily do forfeiture of office as boilerplate, because we're gonna come back to it.
I also noticed, because I've seen that there was an administrative code, and it's actually under a section about adoption of an administrative code, and it gives the council the ability to adopt an administrative code, so we don't have to put it in the powers council, because it could be given somewhere else.
Sorry, I missed the first part.
I like this idea of an administrative code, and it council, it's, who has that, Buckeye Lake has it. And I wanted to, and that's something we need. It is in its own section. It's not, I don't believe it's in the council section, it's in a section on codes. So we may be able to give council powers in other places, not just in this.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was kind of planning on having a codification section, and it was not gonna be included in council, it was gonna have its own subsection in a different article.
I mean, council's gonna be getting various powers throughout
Yes, that's,
the charter.
yeah. So it doesn't all.
Right.
In this list.
Right.
Can you get powers, draft administrative rules via a charter if the law doesn't give you the administrative body the authority to draft administrative rules?
What administrative rules are you talking about?
I don't know.
Same ones I'm talking about. It's called an administrative code, providing for such administrative procedures as it may determine and for the administrative organization of village government. Right now, we don't have very many policies and procedures for any offices or anything like that, nothing's written down.
Well, I mean, one of the tensions as you go through the charter is going to be what procedural issues, it's gonna come to the fore, particularly the next article on legislative procedure is which procedures do you specify in the charter and which do you leave to council to set on its own? And I would say the danger of being too specific is it's very difficult to anticipate every conceivable thing out there. And so the more specific you are in the charter, the more you're gonna potentially tie council's hands and their flexibility to deal with situations as they arise. Because again, think of this as a constitution, you know, if you're stuck with something you don't like, it's very difficult to change. You have to, you know, short of trying to do an initiative, you know, like a referendum, you're gonna have to wait till the next review period comes up. So that's just something to be kind of filing away. But I think their reference to an administrative code is
It is under
more along,
legislative procedures.
yeah, more along the line of, to be honest, I haven't looked at Buckeye like a whole lot, but seems, you know, council rules is something that you see a lot of times referred to. I don't know if there's overlap there.
I think we'll get to it.
So to keep us on track, I think number one, Kelly, you're gonna go boilerplate, we'll read through it and see if there's anything that we're concerned with. So that moves us on to number two. How many members of council will there be? If more than 6 members, then we may need some specific provisions to govern the transition to a larger council. 6 to 7 members is the norm. It also depends on whether the mayor is considered a member of council or not. One important consideration is the voting requirements that will be addressed in Article 4, such as the supermajority requirements to waive 3 readings and pass emergency legislation. A council of only 6 members has a practical impact on reaching those supermajorities. For that reason, Sunbury decided to make the mayor a full voting member of council, which brings you up to 7 members. That's also how the Albany's charter is set up. And they made that decision after initially going with 6 council members with the mayor only voting to break a tie. So those are both options. Which one do we like?
So if I can provide a little context there, they initially decided to go with the Groveport model, you know, because they were similar vote, 6-member council, chose mayor, council administrator. So they were just gonna roll their current council forward, add the mayor as the presiding officer, but he would not get vote except in a tie. And then as we started talking about, wait a second, you know, the supermajority requirements, 3/4, 2/3, you know, if you miss one person, if you're down a person, say it's vacant or they're not able to come, you start running the problems real quick. So the more we talked about it, they decided to add the mayor as a full voting member of council just to make those supermajority decisions easier. But, you know, that may not work for you guys. That's why they did it. So I just wanted to highlight that as you know,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
thinking
no,
about that
no, I
now,
get it.
because that's gonna come
I get it.
next article.
So I had some thoughts on that. I was wondering if, and I kind of posed this to some of the people that are a little more knowledgeable of just the past 5 or 10 years of how things have been going. It seems like there might be some bad feelings in the community about the idea of the mayor being a full voting member. I also just personally I don't know if I like the idea of the mayor being a full voting member, but I like the idea of the mayor being a tiebreaker vote.
Actually,
What are people's thoughts on that?
in 4 years, I haven't seen the mayor have to cast.
I've seen her have to cast tie-breaking votes before, but it is rare.
Isn't that a little more reason to say that that's not a big deal? And I don't know.
I really would like us to not run into the situation where the mayor has to break a tie. It has happened in the past, and as you can imagine, when they're tied, it's because it's a hot button issue. And the mayor breaks the tie, and my preference is that we have 7 council members, and they have to come to terms with whatever it is.
But if only 6 of them show up and it's a 3-3 vote, and you want the mayor to be able to break the tie, because things have to move forward. And if it stays a tie, I think then it doesn't get passed, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it doesn't get passed.
We would
They have to
craft that
start-
rule, but I would have to assume that's the rule we would craft.
And they have to, I mean, I would rather them have to start over next council meeting than do it again, than have the mayor break a tie. That is my honest opinion, and I also think that we need one more council member. I actually think we need one more.
I agree, but that doesn't, what having 7 isn't gonna prevent a tie.
It's,
One person
no,
has
it's,
to.
well, it's
That's
not.
two- I think that's 2 different topics, right?
No,
So,
It is the exact same thing. It's the exact same
well,
thing.
the mayor tiebreaker versus 7 council members, but which one are we talking?
So, right, so I think that if we extend ourselves to say that we need a mayor as a genuine executive and a genuine representative of the people as a sole body, then as a check and balance,
Mhm.
right? Then we foil that check and balance by giving them a vote,
I agree.
even if it's just a tiebreaker.
Yes,
So it's not.
that's my
It
feeling,
is,
yes.
it is it's sort of like, graying our fine line, our black and white. So I think an odd number of council people, and the mayor is not a tiebreaker, and in that scenario where, one person's out and a council comes to an impasse, then it's at an impasse,
But
right?
it's at an impasse.
I don't know that you can handle it any other way. Or you could, but I don't know that I would be comfortable handling it.
You ever have people legislation that absolutely needs a vote?
Oh, they, all the time. It's constant. The supermajority stuff, passing legislation as an emergency, this happens constantly. Now, this is one of the things that some of the people who are on council currently, this is one of the things that they complain about the most. And they're still doing it.
Can I clarify one thing, just so everyone's clear on the difference between, the standard procedure is that a article of legislation, whether it's resolution or ordinance, has 3 readings.
Right.
Before it's passed at the 3rd reading. So there's 2 different things. Suspending 3 readings means you're passing it immediately without having considered the 3 meetings. And then the emergency means that it goes into effect immediately, because again, there's usually a 30-day wait, except for, and we'll get to that, there's certain types of legislation that just, most charges it's gonna go into effect immediately, like appropriating money, or if you're trying to put something on the ballot, things like that, those just go into effect immediately. But other than those categories, everything else, 30-day waiting period. So the emergency option allows the ordinance to go into effect immediately. And of course, that can be abused, but there's plenty of legitimate reasons why you need legislation to go into effect immediately.
No, there is. No, I'm not saying that, but I also think that it happens so frequently with our council that it's become the habit. It is the habit. Now, I know, I get it, because it's often stuff that the village has to pay for. Right then, they've got to pay for it, so they have to suspend the readings and or.
Police officer, do you want that person?
That's the most-
Right,
So that's the most common one,
Yeah.
it's appointing
Well, did
police
they
officers.
approve our funding with an emergency vote?
Yeah,
It would need to happen
It seems like we're all
sooner
agreeing.
rather than later.
I mean, it seems like we're all agreeing on this, right?
We're still, we were talking about the time of thing.
I understand, but it seems like everyone is generally in favor of the mayor not having a tie-breaking vote. And there being
I'm
another
not,
council.
I'm not, I
Okay,
think.
so just,
yeah.
I just remember it's not our.
yeah, I don't want her to have a vote.
I'm not saying.
Let me ask
I
this, is there anybody on the other side of the fence who thinks that is advantageous?
But
That the mayor having a tiebreaker?
I mean, like I said before, if it's up to a tie and it needs to move forward, again, the mayor has voted and she has to have the best, he or she has to have the best interest of the village in mind. And in that case, yeah, do we pass this piece of legislation or do we not? Because if it doesn't, if it's a tie, it stops there and it dies. And it's not that easy to just start all over again. And there are things that, you know, that need to just keep going, even if you have a 30-day waiting period. It needs to keep going.
I agree with you.
I agree with it, Pam, on this.
With it.
Like, I think that, yeah, we put trust into the mayor because we voted them in position. You know, I feel like it's natural to then extend that trust to them being able to break a tie on something that needs to move forward. Because our government is not gonna work if it's constantly getting bogged down in nitty stuff, like, you know, whether or not we had 6 people or 7 people show up for the council meeting that week.
All right, help me out because, as I have said before, I'm really awful at math. If we have 7 council members, how often in reality are we talking about the possibility of a tie vote? Right, it's if one of them doesn't show up.
Yeah, expectations.
So if one of them doesn't show up and there's a tie, the legislation fails.
Well, no, I
But
mean,
not but here's my thing. If we write the rules in such a way that we're not encouraging near constant emergency votes, then there will have been 3 readings or 2 readings of proposed legislation prior to that. And if council feels strongly that they need to pass or vote down a piece of legislation, they're gonna be on notice that vote is happening that night.
I have one thing, I think the normal structure you would see in charters, if you have an odd number of council members, you wouldn't have the mayor tie-breaking vote.
right,
Yeah.
Even if there could be a situation where one person's gone, and you have a 2-3 split, it just is what it is.
so are you saying this is never done, or it can't be done,
No, I'm
or
saying
it
you
should not be
It's a
done?
charter, you can do it, I'm
You
telling you
pick
what,
one or the other.
well, I'm telling you what the norm is. The
Yeah.
norm
I
is
know,
you
yeah,
usually have the mayor having a tie-breaking vote
if
if there's an
there
even
is an
number.
even number of council members.
So if we're using a constitutional basis, wouldn't that be like having the president as the tiebreaker?
No, it'd be like having the vice president as a tiebreaker.
Okay.
I want to bring him up.
Well, like, yeah,
Right, which, because there's an even
How
number
does
of
that
senators.
happen? I mean, you know, that happens, but.
well, so let's,
That's because there's an even number of senators.
right, so
Right.
let's circle back. I'm just for the audio record, welcome to Councilperson Starr and excuse. So I think what we're talking about right now is how many members of council will there be, odd or even, really, 6 or 7. And the point of contention is whether, not contention, but the point we're talking about is whether if we go with 7, does that negate the desire to have, or the reason to have a mayor as a tiebreaker vote?
Straw poll, show hands.
Well, let's figure
Let's do the number
it
of council members first. It sounds like we're pretty agreeing on.
I think we're all agreeing on
On
that.
7.
Yes.
I like the idea of something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of taking the focus away from talking about mayor or mayor voting or mayor not voting.
Right.
I like the idea of 7 because we've just doubled the size of the village, and I think it makes sense to
Yes.
have that extra voice
Yes.
representing the larger number of people that we have now.
Okay, so we all agree 7.
So,
Yep.
All right, just going down the list,
So
keep us
the
in order.
likelihood of that mayor having a vote would be less, just saying.
I mean, honestly, I feel like you are worried about something that really rarely happens.
Right.
It's been really, I think I've seen her break a tiebreaker in the amount of time I've been here, maybe every
No,
time.
I'm just saying, want the opportunity.
No, I get it.
So
if-
let's
again,
go back to
we're on-
number
He's
three.
got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, what? Go ahead.
I think, number one, the mayor is an elected official with apparently the trust of the citizens. And to give the village the flexibility in this very infrequent event, I don't think is a big deal to have 7 and a tiebreak. I just don't see that it's a big deal.
I'm gonna
We'll get to that.
pull,
yes,
yeah, as I say, I'm gonna pull the chair and say that we'll get to that later, just because I wanna make sure we do all the council things, and we'll just keep this one.
And that's the power of the mayor, so that's next.
That's true.
All right, so number 3 on our list, will all council members be elected at large, or will wards be created?
I'm so glad.
Who's gonna fight about that? My goodness.
All right.
As much fun as I would have trying to.
Southside wants
to. Evan's cul-de-sac is Ward 1.
That'll be a,
Well, we're gonna do that, we'll go back to the commission. All right, number 4, what is the length of a council member's term, 4 years or more?
I don't have a strong feeling.
I think it would be interesting to try a shorter term.
I actually was thinking the same
So-
thing.
So in the last 4 years, I think if we were to take an average, we're probably averaging 2 or less.
2 or less years.
Before they resign.
That's before they run screaming from the building.
And then they
That's
have,
exactly
then
right.
somebody gets appointed.
And then somebody gets appointed, right? So if you look at our current council, our current council is a fine example of this because half of them were elected not 2 years ago.
Yep.
And then the other half have been appointed in these last 2 years.
Or didn't a bunch of people quit the council?
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
And that's the whole
But the
point.
smaller-
That has happened.
But people didn't quit the council recently because they hated the council.
Oh, no.
But the council said they could run for this.
No.
right?
No, not-
No.
Okay.
No.
No, the two
No, no,
recent
no.
resignations were,
No.
I worry about the idea of a 2-year term
That was
though,
an option.
because that's a lot of energy to expend and we're doubling in size, but we don't have 1 million people. I mean,
I'm sure there were a couple people that were like really committed for 4 years. I mean, everybody judges based on the historical thing, and I'm not saying, we could have the current mayor run again and win election, and then you're back to wherever.
so my thought on that is that just because the term is only 2 years, doesn't mean that that person isn't just as committed, right? They could very well
run
again, and again, and again.
Do we have any money to put on the ballot every time they run?
Okay, so we already have, our current setup is that we have council people on the ballot every 2 years anyways. Because half the council, well, currently it's 4 and 2, right? So 4 council people are on the ballot, one election, and then 2 years later, we have 2 people on the ballot. So, and when it's a general election, you share those costs against all the election costs are shared amongst all the precincts reported, right? So when we have when we're on the ballot and all of Franklin County's voting, it's very inexpensive. When we put a special item on the ballot and they have to spin up the entire voting infrastructure for Minerva Park to show up to vote, that's very expensive. The one time we did that, it was like a $7,000 or $8,000 expense, when a normal election, if I recall, is like $1,500.
I think you're giving up stability if you go on a 2-year cycle for everybody. I think that's
I don't think
idiotic.
we don't have stability now, Dick.
Well,
People are
Why are you
quitting,
so worried about
people are
this
quitting
reason?
at that rate now.
Historically, it has not been that case.
That's
I'm
not
gonna
true.
That is
I'm
true.
gonna-
The question
guys,
is-
I'm gonna jump,
Historically.
hey, I'm gonna jump in. So,
Beyond 20 years,
I-
beyond 15,
I'm gonna,
maybe.
I'm going to jump in. Right now, 4 years is the norm, 4 years is what we have. Is it worth it to change it?
I think it's an interesting
I
experiment.
think it's worth
I
it.
think, I can definitely point out more than one person who said, yeah, I might have run for council, but a 4-year commitment's too much. So do we reduce our pool because we don't have people who want to put 4 years, who could be very good at what they do, and then once they're in, maybe they like it and they go longer, or they, they run again.
I think that's a really big hypothetical.
Of
I think it's
course
a
it is.
change that people maybe wouldn't necessarily.
Yes, but what you're ignoring is the fact that in the last 3 or 4, is it 3 councils or 4 councils?
4 councils.
People have quit and had to, at least 2 have quit and had to be appointed.
I want to.
Why did they quit? Did they move out of the village?
No.
They quit because of the.
One of them
going
did,
on.
one of them quit because he moved out of the village, one,
So they have.
and that's it.
Scott Hansen,
That's right,
and that's it.
and that's it.
So the problem
Russell
is
Rollins
we've
was
not got to have a
across the
solution to this
Yeah,
because
he-
it's not as
he-
simple as pressing 4, 3, or 2 on my keyboard. However many years of a term we select, that's gonna affect what Ryan was talking about where, let's say it's 4 years and then we've got however many running every 2 years, we have that offset election cycle. So we gotta have a solution to this.
Madam Chair, I want to know what Paul thinks.
Sure.
It's really not a legal question.
Nice try. We reinforce the stereotyping.
Let's put this 2-year thing. So it would be maybe 3 people are elected, and then the next year, you would have to stagger it
An
so that
election
it would be.
every year for
Every
council.
year.
No. Every election cycle, every 2 years. Every.
No, it would be.
Not
every year.
One person at a time, please.
Yeah, so if it is 2 years, again, you wanna split it up, maybe every year, but guess what? Well, it's every year.
You're losing stability.
Right.
Well,
Tell
let
me
me,
how we're
no,
losing
let's,
stability, I wanna
let's.
know, Jack. Explain to me what you mean by
If
reducing
you-
stability.
Get council, get people come in and they learn the job in a year or so. Then they start being of more value. I know you had turnover for various reasons recently, but you want to have, I just cannot see council being elected every year and term only 2. It's just, it's not stable.
If I may interject, I think it's an interesting experiment. I think it's not worth jeopardizing the chance of the charter for people who don't. want
Yeah, I
it.
think that's a
It gives
good
the
point.
detractors something to say, this is a terrible idea, it jeopardizes stability, versus if you leave it the way it is, it's a zero-sum game.
We don't want to campaign against.
I want to add something that you said, to do 2 years would eliminate having people with skills that are based on practice to mentor people that are coming in and help guide them along. That would be lost, it could.
In the form of a compromise, is it worth talking about a 3-year term or is that just bonkers?
No,
I think it just feels weird.
you
I
know
know
what?
it feels weird, but if it's workable and it solves a
I
problem.
was trying to figure out how that kind of.
Yeah, I don't know how that would
Yeah.
work, but.
I'll throw this out there as a rebuttal to the stability issue. US Congress, or our House of Representatives, is a 2-year cycle. When you elect your congressperson, you are electing them for 2 years. I don't believe that we would say that causes a particular instability to the US Congress. If you have somebody who comes into the office who learns the job, likes the job, and is dedicated to the job, they'll stick around. They will run again. Hopefully the people will elect them again. But, I can definitely see people looking at a 4-year commitment and saying, I don't even know if I'm planning to be alive in 4 years. Well, I'm not gonna
And
commit to
you know
something
what?
that I
So
know I
you're-
couldn't do.
So your argument is it gives you a bigger pool, people would be more willing to try it, your term, than might not.
He's not the only one who's heard people say, I would run if it was not a 4-year term, it's too much of a commitment.
The other thing I'll say is that in exchange for what loss of stability there may be, you get a certain dynamism, right? Somebody coming in who's fresh and excited to learn and do something new, right? They have steam. Somebody who's on the 10th month of year 3 has possibly less steam than the person who's on the 10th month of year 2.
If you want to make the argument about the House of Representatives, there's a counter argument for the Senate.
Sure, so that's it.
Yeah,
So
no, you're right.
let me throw an idea out here. We've got, what, 2 present council members? Do we want to ask them if they have any thoughts to add to this conversation? Sure.
Sure.
Oh, we've already had that discussion. You guys are crazy. I'd leave it at 4. We're just now, here's the problem. We've had a lot of people leave, that's great, I'll make this short. Now that we have a team that's actually working together, I don't think there's anybody that has any interest in leaving in near future. I have no interest in leaving. It has taken me a year to figure out what the storm sewer versus the sanitary sewer is. You guys want somebody else to start all over again in 6 months? Good luck. It's a learning curve. I mean, I have no interest. I will not move off of sewers and streets, FYI for the record. Because, not because I like sewers, but it has taken me this long to actually get to where I'm going, make these changes, get the projects done. I mean, we're getting things done left and right. And if I were to leave at the end of this year, you guys are gonna start from scratch.
Let me ask you
These
this.
projects are
They're huge.
a dime a dozen, and there are the projects of this village. The ongoing projects are longer themselves than 2 years.
Yeah,
All
so
of them.
let me ask both of you this, because you both obviously stepped up and run for council. In your consideration to do so in recent memory, and I'll get to older council members in a minute, how much did that length of term factor into your decision to do it? Or did it factor in at all?
None at all. I have 2 kids that are in school right now, so they're gonna be in school. My job's flexible, so I didn't have the job issue. That's not gonna change. But I knew that I would have conflicts. I mean, if you're gonna do it for 2 years, you can do it for 4. I think it's, for anybody listening, I don't wanna say it's an excuse, but I'm as busy as you are. If you want to do it, you will make the time and you will do it. I mean, I miss things just like everybody else.
When you make a commitment to something like this, you're making it more than 6 months or so, you're projecting in the future. If something crazy comes up and you're forced to resign from council, if you end up moving because you've gotten a job, a killer job in Michigan somewhere, then you're
Michigan.
I'm trying to think of the most impossible circumstances I can possibly think of.
That was a good save.
If you get some killer job somewhere and you're leaving the community, then that's going to happen either way. And so if you're projecting out, 4 years to me seems like a reasonable amount of time to say, in where I am in my life, I can, as reasonable as any person on this planet, I can do this for the next 4 years.
So wait, let me ask the other council members and then we can ask you a question.
I want to ask it of all of them. It's a follow-up, and here's the question. I'm sorry. Has people leaving and then having to have people appointed, has this affected the continuity or smooth running of the council? I want to know from every former council member and every current council
So
member.
before we get to that though, because I think that's an entirely different question than what I'm asking right now, and I want to hear feedback from the other previous council members first. My question is, in your choosing to run, did the amount of years factor into your decision one way or the other? Dick, you start.
No.
No, and 4 years go so fast.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because I was a replacement and it was only 2 years left on that term. And I didn't run for reelection. So, well, it's here at me. If we're talking about 4 people, we could consider 4 4-year term seats and 3 2-year term seats.
So
It's kind of crazy.
So back to Jen's question.
That was almost my 3 years.
That was unlikely to the job in Michigan.
So back to Jen's question for all of our.
Did people leaving and then people needing to be appointed, was it counterproductive
Oh, yeah.
The more turnover you have, it stops everybody in their tracks, because we have to get him up to speed, we have to get Lori up to speed. So doing this every 2 years, again, that's where we're taking steps backwards, because we were going full force on the lake. And now we're
Already doing it,
but we're still training for those, yes.
but it's
we are
already
doing it.
happening.
So,
It's already happening, whether we have a
But we have a
two-year
good-
term or a four-year
So
term.
when we get a good group, if they will stay,
so let
which
me,
they are now.
so let me ask Jen, are you trying to lead down the path of 2 years is better because people are quitting because of the poor, or I'm just.
I'm
Figure out where you're
saying that there is literally, in the last 4 councils, no difference between having 2-year terms and people leaving. No. Has every single council member left after 2 years? No, they haven't. But enough have left in the last 4 councils that it's the same as having a 2-year election cycle.
And are you saying
That's what I'm saying.
We should not legislate, historically, they have.
Historically,
Okay.
yeah, yes.
So we should legislate based on current situations. Let's say, we legislate for the future. It's an interesting idea.
If the worst case scenario is a de facto 2-year term, why legislate to the worst case scenario?
So the difference would be.
I don't want that that's the worst case
scenario.
scenario.
2 years as opposed
This
to-
isn't the worst case scenario.
Can I suggest that we do a hand vote, because we're on question 4
Yes.
13, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So straw poll going around, starting with Evan this time. 2 or 4 years.
4.
4.
2.
4.
4.
2.
4.
Olivia.
All right, good enough.
All right. 4 years is.
Well,
And
that was
I'm
vigorous.
I like that argument and heck of a lot more than the argument over form of government, so.
All right.
It'd be a fun experiment, but,
Question number 5. Will the charter create a residency requirement for members of council? Some charters contain such provisions. For example, Dublin and New Albany each have a 1-year residency requirement, while Tassel has a 2-year residency requirement. If you do decide to go that route and one is used, note that Article 5 will require the commission to consider whether the mayor should be subject to the same. So what do you think?
I actually have some thoughts on this one, from personal experience. So when I first moved here, I thought I was gonna, I kind of started this thinking that I wanted to, advocate for doing away with the time requirement, but I'd actually changed my mind. So when I first moved here in 2015, I think we had just returned the darn moving truck when I saw a notice that there was a vacancy on council. And I'm a lawyer and kind of a geek, so I thought, hey, that would be great. I'll contact the mayor and I'll see if I can do this. And she notified me that I just hadn't lived there long enough yet, so it wasn't an option. And in retrospect, I'm really glad that that requirement was there, because I had no idea anything about Minerva Park other than that I liked the street that I had just moved on to, right? And at that time, I don't think I would have been a very good council member, because I don't think I was ready.
Well, what do you think you gained in readiness over time? What additional?
I know a lot more about the community. I moved in like right in the middle of the whole MI Homes zoning thing. And over that next few months, I learned a lot about what was going on with that. And I didn't find out about the sewer problems until like a year later. So I hadn't lived here long enough yet to be really informed enough to be representing people, I think. So that's just my personal experience with it.
So I'm gonna go on the flip side of that
Yeah.
and say, as somebody who hasn't lived here a year and still got elected to a position and didn't have the requirement. I think that there is an advantage to not having the requirement in that people come fresh, right? Your point of coming with more steam, but also we have an awful lot of new residents who are going to feel like they're excited to move into this community. They're going to want to participate. They can learn on the fly. You didn't know about sewers before you had to, because why would any of us? But it almost feels exclusionary So if somebody doesn't want to run, that's fine, but I think excluding them, I don't necessarily like.
I mean, look, I was a little upset at the time because it was like, hey, I'm interested in doing this, and I just literally wasn't allowed.
Right.
I don't know.
No,
So, a lot of residents in the new area are new. But by, let's say this charter is passed, and then you move forward with voting for council members. Do you think by the time, that like if you had a 1 year, the people that moved into development have actually established a year? And because
I'm
most
sure
of
some
it-
already have.
Right, because most of that development is already developed.
But- I mean, that's what, there won't always be a development, right? I mean, eventually it's not
So there's
30 families have just moved in within the last 6 months, but I still feel like it applies.
I don't know why we can't have a 6-month residency report.
I'll have to go along with that.
All in 6 months.
We could.
We can have whatever
We
we
have
want.
another day.
Yeah.
39-day residency.
But unfortunately, number 42.
Yeah, 6 months gets you here, gets you at least unpacked to some degree. A little bit more than you did, right away. And
One wine and cheese night in.
And you have to get your, your petition in, let's say that's for November, in August, so by, I think, is it by the time you do your petition, is it by the time that, you take office?
The charter,
Right.
it's how you write it, but
Yeah.
I think it's normally drafted by the time you put in your
Petition, so
petition.
then they'll have almost
So
a year
at
in
time-
by the time they start in the office, so.
6 months. 6 months.
6 months.
Anyone have a problem with 6 months?
Evan, what were you gonna say?
Are there any requirements currently on books for like?
So the statutory is 1 year.
Well, here.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. My question is, because we're going to be, ultimately, our goal is publication. So we should not necessarily to what is workable, what we can pass. So is a change going to be, I mean, I don't think 6 months or a year is going to be radical, but in the future, when we have things like this, we gotta look to see who's going to be voting for this and why. So,
New development's gonna be voting in Carroll.
True.
So I'm writing down 6 months.
Probably not to
but on the flip side, older residents are also gonna be voting too, and they might not want someone who just showed up to, step on, become chairwoman of the commission to decide their future.
I'm just saying, loophole.
He's like, yeah, 6 months sounds great, thanks.
All right, so 6 months, done with number 5.
Done.
Number 6, are council members prohibited from holding any other elected office excluding involvement in a political party? This is a common prohibition to include. I actually have a question. I don't get it. What?
So here, I can give you an example. So council person would be not allowed to also be a township commissioner. Right? Because you can't serve two masters. Are you serving the village of Minerva Park or are you serving the township?
Are you being a state senator or are you being a Village of Minerva Park council member? I would like this prohibition to continue.
And there's a whole there's a whole number of attorney general opinions about different compatibility between different positions. People try to do this kind of thing all the time, but this is a pretty common prohibition.
I do have a question. I suspect I know the answer, but I'd like your thoughts. I assume that extends to future charter commissions as well, since those are elected positions. So councilmen, is that something we should specify, or is that gonna be wrapped up in the
I think it's
general
something-
language?
I think it's something we should specify because it was something we couldn't get a clear answer from
Yeah.
our village solicitor on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
think it
can
would
it
be
say
good.
councilman?
It would be good to specify, yeah, so you don't have a council person, unless you want that.
And that's my question to the group is, do we want to say that sitting council people can or cannot sit on a future charter commission to amend the charter?
I don't think they are I think they should be able to sit.
Why? What's the advantage?
Well, I think when, OPEX talked to us, he was on the charter commission while he was also the mayor.
I think you're right.
And,
Well, just because he was, what was the benefit of, cost benefit? Right.
knowledge, just all kinds of knowledge, you know what's not
I
working.
know what's going on.
Yeah, not working with
Experience.
the present, and you can have,
I know.
recommendations.
I gotta say, I kind of agree, because there was no guarantee that we were gonna have 3 former council people on this commission itself. If you hadn't all run, we wouldn't have had any of your opinions.
Oh, yeah, there was. There was a
Oh.
guarantee.
Jen, you know what I mean, but
Yeah.
Jennifer.
I think it's a risk for that, right? Isn't that?
Okay.
To some extent, it's a chicken and the egg.
There could be a power, there could absolutely be room for some kind of a power.
I will play the devil's advocate on that, in that council voted down the charter when we put it.
That's exactly right,
And then
exactly.
they could have gotten petitions, and they could have gotten on, and there weren't enough of us for somebody to not give them.
Well, wait, they
All
don't
they have
want
to
to
do
be
is
doing
vote
that, and
themselves.
most people wouldn't want to be doing 2 things.
Well, unless they,
Landing on the-
Unless you're saying unless they wanted to torpedo it.
yes.
Right.
And
And,
that's the cost, right?
and I think that we run the risk of having the charter completely torpedoed by a council at the next review.
Nah.
Oh, no,
I think
okay,
that's,
I'm not going
better
there, I'm thinking
people.
50 years
I
from
think
now, but I
people
still
are
think.
interested.
I think even 50 years from now, not just saying this council.
Can you specify that a future charter has to have 15 members, and if you say only 7 council members, then you get more 8 people that are now in the council? Assuming you're worried they're going to torpedo it.
No, you're right, you're absolutely right.
Number-
You're absolutely right.
Aren't you statutorily required to have a certain number of people in the charter committee or not?
It's constitutional.
Okay, so then
The
you're required
review
to.
committee can have fewer, how many?
Oh, yeah, the review committee can.
Well, we're not there yet, we're on
Right.
five.
So can we just,
Okay,
Should I
so
use the
number
standard
6,
language?
can we just, and we'll argue about the other part.
That's true.
I really like it.
I'm okay with it.
So residencies.
So we're keeping it?
We're keeping the prohibition in.
I don't think anyone is wanting to get rid of that prohibition.
No, I'm going to, for the sake of time, come back to number 7 and 8, do this last, because we will talk this today. So, if I can, it might not work out well for me, but number 9, provisions for the selection of president pro, I don't know how to say it. Temp, thank you. Pro tem, vice president of council. If the mayor is not the presiding officer of council, the provisions for vice president pro tem should also be included. There's an example of Dublin's charter that's cited here. If the mayor will automatically be the presiding officer of council, provisions for an acting mayor are best addressed in Article 5. In other words, we'll address it here. So what are your thoughts on that? Or what are your questions on that? I see questions. I'm not calling them.
Okay, there's, sometimes they talk about the president of council, and sometimes they talk about the pro tem.
Pro temporary, yeah.
Yeah, and if the mayor can no longer serve as mayor, it's the president of council who then steps in. But if the mayor is the president of council, is it then the pro tem?
President pro tem.
President pro tem, okay. So if the mayor were president of council, there'd also be a president pro tem. A mayor pro tem, I'll do it.
Yeah, so I think you need a presiding officer for the board, right?
Right.
Whether that is the mayor or a council electing a president of the council. But then you need a, a vice president.
Yeah.
So,
I think the council needs to handle its own business.
Well, this would be.
I don't want the mayor to be the president of council. I want the council to decide who its president is and who its vice president is and run its own situation.
I tend to agree. I guess I'm looking at it more from a nuts and bolts standpoint of what are the actual provisions of how the president of council is selected, right? So are we saying that they'll have a majority vote within the council? Are we saying that the longest serving is the president? I mean, we just need to write something down on paper, basically.
Yeah, so currently, we do that with, at the organizational meeting, the first regular scheduled council meeting in January, and it's actually by motion.
Yeah, it's by motion.
it's, they move by motion to nominate one among them and then a voice vote. Give your name.
I think they should just,
And I,
it should just be
and I think that's,
majority vote. It
And I
should just be, yeah,
yeah, that's what it is.
that's what it is.
Right. So that's how it works now. I guess my question then is that working for Minerva
Yeah.
Park? Does anyone have problems with
That is.
Then that's easy.
Okay,
Yeah.
keep it.
I'd like to ask a question related to, if that's the way it's been working, then, under the current set of circumstances with statutory, if, if the current mayor had decided not to run and nobody else did, would that have been the natural succession under,
Yes,
I'm looking at you,
yes. That's it.
I
for statutory?
I'm not sure all the ins and outs of statutory replacing a mayor. I'm assuming.
I mean, there wasn't any
Appoint
written
somebody, but-
instructions about that, but this is giving those written instructions. It never happened, so it's hard to say, but I'm just wondering.
Well, that's just curious, I'm trying to, so I'll say what's the bill later.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't catch
She didn't
that.
word me.
So,
The
for right
vacancies are a
now,
little different.
council is gonna elect their president.
Yes.
Is the president, council gonna then be, pro tem, yeah, for the mayor, so the mayor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is it gonna be every other year, that done more than every even numbered year, or are we gonna do this every year?
We do, currently it's every year.
For council to appoint.
Done one is every other year, right?
They changed that, and that's the way they set up your charter. You guys could,
I
you know, since if you're on a 4-year cycle and it's offset, you're gonna have new people coming on every other year, so I don't think you would want to have it extend any more than 2 years.
Right.
Because the new people need a chance to be able to vote.
So are we proposing that council elect president or whatever?
Yeah.
Every year or every other year?
I was
every,
thinking it was like every year, January.
every year. I mean,
By the organizational meeting.
just because
Why
it's
it wouldn't be the same person.
something that's actually working.
Yes.
Like, it's not ever not worked.
I, at the risk of opening Pandora's box, the sense I was getting from our earlier conversations, people generally were against the idea of the mayor sitting on council. So if we go that route, it says here that we should also have a vice president pro tem. Should I just write it in that that person will also be selected at that January meeting and then we move on with our lives?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because what happens now when the president isn't there is that the mayor has to prompt whoever's responsible for running the meeting, or she runs the meeting. So I do agree, we need a vice president.
Kelly, I don't understand your question. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Are you looking?
Okay, so reading question 9.
Oh, we're,
It seemed from our earlier conversation that in this meeting that we are, as a group, kind of leaning towards having the mayor not be the presiding officer of council.
right.
So in this memorandum, it says, if that is the case, then we should also provide for a vice president pro tem.
Yes,
Yes.
I think we.
And I want to make sure that I don't waste my time and draft that whole section to have you guys tell me we're not doing a vice president.
No,
So, okay.
And also elected annually.
Yeah, same,
But
yeah.
can you make sure to clarify the
Yes.
confusion?
So under number 7.
No, we're not going there. Please skip those because those are gonna be the longest conversations. So we're
Thank
gonna
you.
publish everything else.
Thank you. Emily, we've decided the mayor's not gonna be
I
president.
think we're actually done with both sections.
No, there was a little bit more to it.
No,
And
there's
number
a lot
10.
more fighting going on.
And number 10.
Number 10.
Provisions for the clerk of council.
Who's our current?
Okay, so currently, Kim Foley is
She's not,
legally responsible for the things that clerk of council.
yes,
do.
she is.
Which is like, keep the ordinances and the resolutions, printed, in a safe place, and that they go through things, getting all the signatures and things.
But she takes the minutes, doesn't she? She takes the minutes.
The recording takes a minute, but yes, she does notice the votes.
Yes.
The votes are doing
That's
it,
correct.
calls the roll for the
Yeah.
votes. So she is.
So that's, why is she, and do we want that?
We used to have a clerk treasurer that was both the clerk and the treasurer, and then we got a financial director and we didn't hire a separate clerk, so that person became also.
So just because Kim's really good at it, 50 years from now, we want the financial officer to also be the clerk, or do we want to specifically call out?
Isn't it required outside law, the Constitution, that the clerk has to keep these things?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, the clerk does, but does the financial officer have to be the clerk?
No,
The
but you have to
Constitution
hire
says
somebody.
that, But, I mean, there's flexibility, there's provisions in the Ohio Revised Code about clerk treasurer, village fiscal officer. I mean, most villages I've seen, they typically have a unified, the village fiscal officer is usually, fiscal officer for the village and also the clerk of council. But clearly, you don't have to have it that way. It sounds like you're not doing it that way. I mean, I didn't go into detail in the memo on this because it's pretty boilerplate. It's, just basically council appoints a clerk. I mean, that's what you boil it down to.
And the clerk is responsible for X, Y, and Z.
The clerk is responsible for things that clerk would normally expect.
And how that job gets done, whether it's a separate hired clerk or the fiscal officer, that's an administrative decision.
Yeah, I don't.
So that's actually a question that I have, Paul, in your memo, or not in the memo, I'm sorry, in for instance, the growth court version. Clerk of council shall be subject to the control of the offices of the council and the general supervision of the mayor and the administrator. What does that mean, realistically?
Well, I mean, again, you're kind of tying into a question about who's gonna have the administrative responsibility. Because, well, also, what is that clerk doing? I mean, if they're the fiscal officer as well as the clerk, then they need to, presumably, whoever's managing the village, whether it's the mayor, and have an administrator, so I'm assuming you're not gonna completely handicap the administrator, but it depends on how much they're reporting through the mayor or reporting directly to council. That's the question, but what oversight do they have over the clerk?
And currently, our clerk then gets help from the administrative assistant, typing up the minutes and doing things.
Okay, so I may have made that one wrong, and I don't think
So
Do you have what you need for that?
I know, I don't know what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean,
So
You're fine.
I believe, in my opinion, the language for that should be as simple as, there needs to be a clerk of council, and they need to do clerking things.
right, pretty much.
Are they selected?
Well,
Or
we're
appointed
gonna
or
have to
hired
argue
or-
about that in a little bit.
Section 4, council shall appoint a person to serve as clerk of council. The clerk of council should be an employee of the village. And it spells out, giving notice and.
I've only ever seen council have the ability to appoint, since it's council clerk,
Yeah.
Well, okay.
they're the one.
So that makes that sounds better than the growth court version, because the growth court version is really vague.
Yeah, New Albany.
When you phrase it that way, though, as council's clerk, then yes, that makes sense.
Yes, the clerk of council should be the council employee.
Yeah, I mean, even in growth court, council's still appointed clerk.
They are.
That's
Actually, looking at the Pickering conversion, or
Well, there's a bigger.
It says,
Wow.
Pickerington and Pasco. Why is
yes,
that?
I think they're all exactly the same.
Oh,
I read some of them.
I'm super.
I probably.
I'm in the
title
Pasco
of
version.
Pasco.
So
Oh,
looking
okay.
at
Or the pickle.
Exhibit B.
Pasco.
Exhibit D, double place it in. What article, or what section?
I'm on page B3, section 3.04 in Pataskala. This one actually seems kind of nice. It's very clear and thorough.
You want to do the clerk of council, any additional statutory duties that they have under the current constitution? As growth court does, or you want to limit it only to the law?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like the ordinances and resolutions.
Right. If no one has a problem with it, I'm gonna kind of take some of the boilerplate from that's what's.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That good with everyone?
Are you gonna put it under the council, or are you gonna wait and put it under the council when we get to that?
I will figure that out.
Oh, I see, it's the same, it is under the council.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, it's just that in the header, it's just that. That's what-
Yeah, we're still on Article 3.
That's okay, we could do reading the bond.
I mean, I announced the wrong charter, so.
All right, so we're good on number 10?
Yes.
He who has to write it? Okay. I guess that.
So we're gonna spell out in the charter exactly what the clerk's duties are. So there are a number of duties in the Constitution for a clerk. So we're gonna spell out a lot of those there, or do we wanna say something like, and I can go back to growth board, that, the clerk will perform the statutory powers and duties of the office, which do not conflict with the provisions of the charter. My only hesitation with totally saying we're gonna set forth everything in the charter, there's some stuff in the statute, in the Constitution,
I think it says,
state laws.
I think it says the same thing as the bigger.
Yeah.
And exhibit B, because it's in the middle of the paragraph, but it has the same catch-all.
This is good, the one.
That's all one, yeah, I read through, it, I was like, this is very well written.
Now we know, general, and it just spells it out a little bit better, but not to the point that she must sharpen her.
My only point is, I would hate to say, we're gonna tell the clerk what to do, the Constitution says, here's additional duties, we forgot to put those in the charter.
No, there's a catch-all here. This thing.
Okay.
So, are we on to line 11?
Yep. What procedures are warranted to fill a vacancy on the council? Note the procedure and timing set forth in section 3.9B of the Dublin Charter, which is the same procedure summary, as an example.
Isn't this, Pam, Brian, Dick, isn't this exactly what we currently have? It's not?
So it says the
I believe
office
so.
becomes vacant upon member's resignation or forfeiture. Shall be filled by a majority vote of the remaining council members. If the vacancy occurs on or after July 1st, of the second year of the term, the person elected by council shall serve the unexpired term. If the vacancy occurs on or before June 30th of the second year of the term, the person elected by council shall serve until successor is elected at the next regular election.
Right now, according to the point of the council member, isn't there?
No,
No, council votes on, on replacements. I mean,
So like, what I particularly like about this is the provision of, when they are in the earlier half, that it goes back to a general election.
I'm a big fan of that.
As opposed to the way we've been doing it, it's somebody who,
You're right.
quits a month in, then we get an appointed person.
For the remainder of that
For the-
4-year term.
That's exactly right, yeah, I agree with it, yeah.
everybody follow that.
That's the reason why it's numbered.
Does that change the who's running, these seats are in this one and these seats are in this way, and could you ever get it so that there's a new election and then all of a sudden they're all high together at the same time?
I think that's why they're careful to spell it out. If the vacancy occurs on or before June 30th, it's handled one way.
It could happen, but I'm running like
It's just for the unexpired, it's for the remainder of the term, whether it's appointed or election, it's not resetting.
Oh, okay.
It's just the remainder of the term.
It could happen, but
It's a, it's the election report, I got it.
it's like a huge algorithm that I'm putting in my head for that to actually happen.
No.
Like it's
very rare.
Yeah, right, even if they had to run, it would only be the unexpired portion.
Exactly, if the voters get to have a chance to decide.
Right, so if they ran, they would be getting essentially 2 years.
So do you have a problem, and is there a potential that, why should I run, because no one, or why should I try, because I'm gonna go run the next time, whereas I can ride it out? I don't know which way it's better. Have you had problems when people are?
Actually, what I've noticed sometimes is if somebody that's appointed doesn't really know what they're getting themselves into, and they may be more likely to quit. Before they're, even they're, yeah.
Jennifer Calkin was appointed
A lot of good people are.
and then continued to run.
I guess I can give you examples of people that were appointed in like, oh my God.
Yes, no, I remember several of those.
You had somebody who was appointed and didn't even finish out the term they were appointed.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so are we all good with the example provided in the
I've already circled
I guess we are. Kelly has circled it and we're moving on.
Number 12, should provisions be included on when a council member is subject to forfeiture of office? It provides two examples, one in New Albany, one in Dublin. I like including that. I have to say that I like including that.
Oh, absolutely.
So the New Albany example is grounds constituting forfeiture, and I'm just gonna read this.
Wait, just a second.
5.3 of New Albany. And I'm gonna read it out loud for the benefit of the audio.
What section are you on?
5.3 of New Albany.
You are.
Go to page C6.
Yeah, that's what I want.
C16.
Thank you.
Oh, it says 16, did you say 6?
Yes.
It's actually 5.0.
You did there now.
I did.
Oh, yeah, I printed mine out.
No, it's just sometimes, just the way the word is. If you open it up, sometimes page numbers get messed up from what they were when I sent it out.
Okay. I
It's a
thought,
word
I just
thing.
thought that was crazy. All right, so grounds constituting forfeiture, an example from the New Albany Charter. The office of an elected official shall be forfeited upon the determination that the elected official, I give some choices. 1, has pled to or been convicted of a felony while in office. 2, has pled to or has been convicted of any crime involving dereliction of duties or breach of public trust while in office. 3, lacks or is found to have lacked at any time prescribed by this charter any eligibility requirements. 4, has violated any prohibition of section 502A.
That's holding other office.
Yeah.
Thank you. And 5, has failed to attend 3 consecutive regular council meetings without being excused by council.
Yes.
Those are the
And
examples.
just so you know, the Dublin and Albany are very similar. Now they're organized a little differently,
Mhm.
but clearly I think when Albany's doing theirs, they are heavily Dublin. I think Dublin's is the older charter.
Yeah,
So
it just changes.
those two sections are very, very similar.
So how much leeway do we have on this? Does anyone want anything else added?
We don't like it, so we're
Yeah, they don't wear a tie.
Yeah.
We're all in agreement.
So I think this is different than any referendum sort of. issue.
Yes.
Right. So I think I want to read anything.
So just keep, so section B says that this is entirely up to council and they initiate the process to establish grounds for forfeiture. They do it by motion.
There's a
They can have
hearing,
full hearings if they want, so, witnesses, a whole thing.
What if council?
But they can't do it without public.
Yeah, they gotta give notice in public hearing.
I have a question for the council members that are here. Because it seemed to be like at times, the mayor would simply say, so-and-so is not gonna be at the council meeting, they've been excused because of da-da-da. And here it says being excused by a council.
Right.
So do you guys take a vote?
When I've missed a meeting here or there. I've only missed one Monday night actual meeting. So again, clarifying between regular council meetings and or work sessions, because again, I mean, and we also have the coffee with council. So you just kind of send an email to the mayor and it's excused. I mean, for the most part, people are missing because they're sick or on vacation. I mean, that's usually the big one.
So what we're really talking about is no call, no show.
Correct. And
Or-
we have that issue.
Well, or, let me ask this, what about somebody who habitually, even
We had one of those.
if it's
And he
a
could-
decent reason, they're
He could
constantly.
never be removed from office. I mean, we had.
Just because it's excused, everybody has an excuse. Like, again, if I go on vacation 4 meetings in a row, then that means my time elsewhere is more important. So again, if you aren't coming, excused or not, so you guys take it from there, but I agree with that. So-
I think
that's one of
the real issue here though is what you brought up. The issue is the council
Mhm.
needs to be responsible for this, not the mayor.
Right.
There's a president of council and the council needs to have its own procedure for this.
Right.
They need
So
to
like a
have an
curfew
official
by council.
procedure,
Whether it's a motion, I move that we excuse.
whether it's
you
a
know,
motion,
so for
no
the
matter,
physical
or,
meeting, yeah. And
yeah.
and it's
Because council hasn't really taken.
So I like this word, it's just the intent is that it is truly excused by council.
In my second year in council, there was an effort to address this by, we wrote into the rules of council that year that unless a council member was excused, their pay was docked some.
Yes.
Okay, well, hold on, so, and to avoid that, it was then a motion in each meeting, so-and-so is absent, do we vote to excuse this person? And that was how we dealt with, is this person excused or not, for just that 1 year. And as I know, that only lasted that 1 year because it was sort of a pain in the butt.
So I was about to suggest like a complicated way of looking at this, or a complicated way of doing it other than 3 consecutive meetings, but the more I think about it, the nice thing about the way it's written in the New Albany Charter is it sets up the grounds, right? 3 missed meetings in a row, and instead of getting into complicated rules about what's an excused absence, what's not an excused absence, the council must have rules, blah, blah, blah. It literally just leaves it up to council, right?
Right.
So that allows for rationality. The council can go, oh, hey, his uncle died and his house burned down, maybe we can let it slide for 3 or 4 more weeks. Or it's, yeah, this guy's been a problem for months, he just missed his 3 meetings, let's initiate the vote. Because at the end of the day, what it's doing is the rule has the flexibility, gives the flexibility to council to decide when to initiate the vote. They don't have to. Someone could miss 3 meetings and council goes, that's okay, we're not initiating the vote.
I want the council to have I want them to have the flexibility of this, but this actually happened to us. And literally, this one council member,
They were missing 2 meetings out of every 4 kind of thing.
more than that. I mean, if the only way to get him gone was to do a recall petition, and just nobody had the time to do it at that time.
Side note, there was a subcommittee from Sunray that met with a few different people, including some people from Dublin, and they shared that they had to add that to their charter. They had needed it and didn't have it when they needed it. That's how
Like how it was done.
That's how it got added.
Yeah.
I would like for us to say the regular council meeting.
How many regular council meetings are there in a month?
That's what it says.
Or it does say regular.
Yeah.
It does say
If it differentiates between regular versus like a work session or something like that, I think the way the rule's written is fine.
Yeah, I think all of the looks good.
Due to unfortunate timing, I'm gonna be gone for a week and I'm gonna be missing a work session and a council meeting. So I'm just saying, let's not make this too draconian.
And then council members.
0 tolerance
Excuse you.
Yeah, they.
Sure.
Yeah.
I am counseling a little bit of rationality.
No, I mean, if your body excuses you, then.
Yeah, but a work session is not a regular.
And a work session is not regular council.
The way you always
So,
treat it is regular, so that'd be, you're talking like a month and a half.
Right.
Right.
So is everybody not afraid of the streets? We're all good with it, we just keep.
So circling the roll.
Can I ask you a question? Do you intend to include, the stipulations that elected officials have to live in the village for their entire term? It's part of, New Albany. Are you gonna include that?
I was,
Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure.
That was one of the part of it.
That seems important.
what the.
You're thinking number 5, yeah, but that was.
Question number 5, page C5, under that eligibility.
So do they have to,
They have to live here.
Yeah, that's a standard requirement.
That's standard? Okay, I just wanted to know.
That's a good point, though, because you could live here for 6 months and then get a couple of leave. I wouldn't want to do that.
No.
start voting crazy, I don't live there anymore.
Who cares? Okay.
All right, number 13, other miscellaneous provisions include rules on council meetings, providing for council rules, and provisions about how frequently council can adjust the salary of elected officials.
Providing for council rules.
Paul, can you expand
Yeah,
on?
Paul, can you expand on those? Are you just saying that those are standard boilerplate things to put in, or those are things that we need to talk through further?
Yeah, those are, without, I didn't want to repeat every single provision of the samples, but if you look at, I think most of these, assuming all of them, have, for example, a provision about how often
Regular meetings, special meetings.
how often you can set the salaries, what the, it's gonna vary a bit between them, but section 3.08 of Growth Board talks about establishing salaries of all elected officials no later than July 1 of each odd number of years. That was something that Rod brought up when he was here. I think he talked about their provision was such that if you missed it, then.
That is right.
Right, they completely forgot.
So that would be the downside, like the growth board thing, if you don't do it by that set deadline, then oops, you missed it, now you gotta wait for that. In this case, that'd be,
Another cycle.
yeah, another 2-year cycle. So that's kind of punitive.
So if you guys look actually real fast, this is gonna tie into, back to question 12. Look at 3.09, the council vacancies in growth board. So that's actually something that's addressed, back in question 11. We had me circle the Dublin Charter. I don't know if you guys read all the way to the end of the Dublin Charter, but basically it has a provision in it that says if council screws around and doesn't appoint a new council person to fill a vacancy within 60 days, then the mayor gets to appoint someone. So,
Growth Board says 30 and
Yeah,
the
some,
other says 60.
so that's what I'm bringing up. Are we okay with saying council gets first bite at the apple? If they screw around and don't get it done within X amount of time, then the mayor gets to do it. Is that gonna ruffle anyone's feathers?
just if I could elaborate on it.
Yeah, please do.
Summary basically used that framework, but they gave council the option to vote itself a 30-day extension.
Oh, okay.
So they gave, instead of just a hard 30.
Unlimited
Well, that's
30
what I-
days.
that's why I
Because
brought it
30
up.
days can be kind of short.
Yeah, 60 days can, and you're having trouble.
30,
Yeah.
right, only, so 30 day, so that way,
At one time, 30 days.
one time 30-day extension, that would indicate that council's not deadlocked or messing around. But after that 60 days, then
I suggest a 60-day time frame
Me too.
with a single 30-day extension.
Me too.
And mayor may.
No, because
But
mayor may or council may has been,
Look at
Part of the problem.
look at the worst case scenario there. That means that you could go 30 days or 90 days with an empty seat, and then at the end of it, have the mayor go, no.
And we still have 6 people who can continue to move things
No,
along.
shall.
Yes, I know.
Shall.
Could the administrator appoint?
No.
No, they can't appoint.
You don't want a hired person appointing someone to an elected seat. I don't like that idea. No, I'm sorry.
The mayor was my suggestion, I can be,
The mayor was your suggestion.
the may.
The may was your suggestion.
Yeah, but
30 extra, and then it gets.
and a shall.
Are we okay with 90 days? Up to 90 days?
So 60,
60
30.
initial, 1 30-day extension, and then the mayor must appoint.
So I have a question.
yes,
When you have these 30 days, it's 30 calendar days, but yet you're only meeting once a month. How does this work? That, so, is that why we're giving them 60 days, because they may only meet once?
That and,
we can also have special
and you
meetings.
have special council meetings, but yeah.
Hopefully to get the word out, and get them to know who's interested in it, and that takes time.
Do we want to say mayor shall appoint within 15 or 30 days?
I don't
Or
know,
else what?
15.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same problem if you leave it open-ended.
Yeah.
If we're at 90 days, so
We're already at 90, give them another 30, so we're at 120.
That's a long
That's
time.
a long
It is.
time.
Meanwhile, during that time, there's a tiebreaker issue, and they don't have the, you know what I mean? That is long. That's long.
Somebody like at the window back
Yeah,
there?
they're looking for the police.
take.
Oh,
I'm not sure, not 100%. I just got a, this one.
Please continue.
Very snowy. Unexpected.
So what else is new?
So what I've
I
written
mean,
down is
okay.
60 days, then they have an option for a 30-day extension. And if then at that time they haven't appointed anyone, the mayor shall appoint someone to the seat.
I like
Within 15
within.
days.
Well, let me ask you this though, if they don't do 15 days, then what? Like at some point, if
Then-
there's nobody to
Yeah,
appoint,
they have to do it.
but if there's
They're
nobody
not
who's,
what they're doing.
but if there's, what if there's nobody that steps up? I don't want the mayor to be there looking for duty when nobody can be appointed.
It seems to me like 90 days is really pretty long. And I'm wondering if we wouldn't just remove the 30-day grace period and then say 15 days. Go 60 for the council and the mayor must appoint within 15.
I mean, honestly, we haven't had this problem. You're right, we don't need this much time because I don't think we've ever had this problem. Mostly.
60, then 15, and if no one has been appointed, then the seat automatically opens up for election. At the next general election, you see what I'm saying?
I like that.
Or we could just leave it the mayor shall, don't put the time on it, which effectively does exactly what you're trying to do right there.
Does it? I don't.
Well, I mean, if literally there's no one who will take the job, if we don't put a time frame on it, then it is going straight to the next general election, because if it's unfilled, it's unfilled. I mean, what are we gonna do? Put a gun to somebody's head and tell them you have to be a council member?
Wow.
That's what Kelly is.
I don't even know what pregnant means.
I like giving council a nice long time. I think what's happened here in the past is that the mayor would be the first one to fill it. And then if the mayor does it, the council can. And the mayor can go around and find somebody that she likes or he likes. And this way it gives the council a nice long.
Just to provide another example, Dublin, they give, we talked initially about that June 30, that kind of year and a half in thing. I thought that people were on board with that, but following that, if council thinks the 60 days, then it goes to mayor shall. It doesn't put a time on the mayor's requirement to do that,
Yeah.
which could alleviate something in case, because you're in a little bit more unique situation with a smaller.
Right. We did agree to the June, like the 2-year and after 2-year thing.
Yeah.
I'm confused myself now.
Oh, you want to make it consistent.
I think
Yeah.
do that now and let you figure out the math.
Yeah, you got 60 days and then decide what else.
Because it's 10 after, so.
So, yes, we need rules of council. Yeah.
And the rules are fairly boilerplate.
Yeah, the paragraphs leading into rules.
Where's the rule? I'm sorry, what page?
If you want to do all the explore that, 5, if you want to do Dublin,
It's about the same.
Dublin's 306. Pickering Center for Cash Flow, whichever one it is. Exhibit B is 305 and 306. But they are all fairly
Standard.
Current council, yeah, they have to buy their own statutes.
Oh, they did this year.
Yeah, they didn't.
And the procedures they were.
So I don't inherently have any issues with any of the boilerplate things, but
Yeah, I don't wanna hamstring them by telling them what the rules have to be.
Yeah, I'm not seeing,
Yeah, it's not our business.
Right, council rule. I guess the one, out of those 3, I think 13C about the salaries, that would be the one that's not so boilerplate as far as that varies a bit between the charters on how you do that.
Because now we have it that you cannot raise the salary in office, you can't vote yourself up for a raise.
Right.
Now, because it's $50 a month, it's not a big deal, so. But,
Yeah, but I mean, we're hoping that maybe they'll,
Well, it's the
yeah, to make it more appealing. I mean, I like the, if we went the direction of paying the mayor virtually nothing.
New Albany, you look at, section 4.04, that's not as restrictive as some of the other ones as far as it's only once in any calendar year, and only as a non-emergency ordinance.
I think it's the same stuff too.
So, which is kind of a counterpoint to say how the ordinance has.
I mean, I
The
don't,
tax bill has a piece in here that I do like that says the salary is so established shall not be changed to be effective during the current term of office.
And that's common in a lot of things.
Which one has that?
Basically, prevent people from voting themselves.
Exhibit B.
right.
But New Albany and Dublin don't seem to have that unless I'm just reading it.
Does anyone ever put a maximum on the salaries or not? You don't know that?
No, it's 100 years, and this with the, what's a realistic salary.
So what am I drafting? Or
I like it.
13C? Model it out there, then.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the salary.
Exhibit B.
Pick Alaska.
I like they have the, date of filing for elections so that, you know if you're running for an office, what your salary's gonna be.
Got it.
And that it's not happening constantly, you know, like it's in each odd number of year. So there are some.
Yeah, there's no later.
Really quickly, I want to apologize to everyone. I unnecessarily confused us with the whole 60-day, 30-day thing. We had previously agreed to the Dublin version, which is the 2-year thing, as Paul pointed out. I confused myself by looking at one of the other charters, and I thought I was talking about something completely different.
Okay.
I
Well, there's
apologize.
kind of two different elements.
It is,
We-
and-
We had really talked about that whole June 30th, July 1
Yeah.
cutoff.
Yeah.
But then you were talking about another element of that.
Who
about
doesn't do it?
How long does council have to?
Right, yeah,
Yeah, so
I think it's okay. I mean,
so I'm using the Dublin version, which is the 2-year, June 30th or July 1st.
under Dublin, who appoints, but who gets first crack?
And then,
Dublin's has the 60 days,
and then
it goes to the mayor.
It's
Yeah.
council, yeah.
So 60, then mayor.
Yep.
Got it.
Alright, and
Cool.
13C, you're going with, I'm so sorry.
The Pick Alaska.
Pick Alaska, yeah.
But I don't know that I either want the each odd number of year, because that then puts you in the scenario where, you know.
That's what Rob was talking about. If you miss it, you're stuck with how it
Yeah,
was
we
for
take
another
out-
2
That's
years.
good point.
Can we take out the odd number of year part and just make that work for, they can do it whenever they want, but it has to be in place by this deadline for the election.
So they can change the salaries every year then.
No, but it doesn't affect until the next term. Right, so change it every year, that's fine, but if your 4 years until your term is up, you don't see a change until your
Re-elect.
term.
Salary so set should not be changed to be effective during the current term of office.
Yeah.
So it's the next term of
So
office.
if we're elected right now, and we vote that, hey, council members will let me at $50, that's lame, let's vote to pay 500, and we all agree on it, it doesn't apply to us unless we get reelected.
Right.
Whenever that may be, 2 years from now, 4 years from now.
So it's kind of like not voting yourself in office, I agree.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Well, how would that work though, as far as, say you just got elected, so it's 2 years from now, the person who just,
You may
a
have.
new person gets elected, their pay goes up, and yours is stuck for the
Yeah.
initial 2 years.
And that's just the way it
That's
is.
the way it.
I think that
Paul, you're on.
I mean, that's-
We were just discussing that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm flagging that issue, I mean, you could do it that way, but I think that could create some hard feelings on council, one person's being paid
To use
$500.
for any typo, someone could be paid $50 a month for 2 years while the person sitting next to them is getting paid 500.
Right, that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah, so why don't we make it effective as of like January 1st?
Of the following.
Of the following month.
But we're staggering our elections.
But if we make it January 1st of the following year, it applies to everyone.
But we don't.
It
want them to
does, but
elect
then you're gonna
themselves.
have someone vote for their own race.
Hmm.
And I think that's slightly unavoidable to be fair.
How does it normally happen in legislature?
How do you avoid that? We don't want to screw somebody over on a 4-year term, but we don't want them to be able to
So the
celebrate.
other-
I'll be honest, in the cost benefit analysis of voting for your own raise versus being paid less than the person sitting next to you, I'm much more concerned with people voting for their own raise.
The other way would be to keep raise limits, keep the amount of the raise limited as a percent. Right? Your example of 50 to 500
It's a
is
huge
a
percentage.
huge percent change, right? That's
Well,
1,000%.
just as a counterpoint, to that, correct me, if I'm- I don't think there's been any history in the village of use of this.
No.
I mean, of course, it's fair to, think about that, but, I mean, there's also corrective measures as far as people are being abusive.
And also, when you vote, if you're doing it the staggered way, when you vote for the understanding that you're not going to get that raise and somebody else is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
unless you're an idiot, like.
And not losing the money anyway.
Well, this is true, now you haven't done it.
So next, within the term.
So just, it's effective the next term,
You might not have it.
right?
Right, so if you're that person who's getting paid 50, you want to do that another 40.
Yeah, that's what you got right. That's what you got right. Good job, now.
And if that turns out to be a major issue, I mean,
Then
then we can
Then-
they can change the charter.
well,
In 20 years when we.
I would just.
No.
Yes, it's, if you look at how the task levy, they talk about the odd number of years, but it goes into effect. I think it'd be practically January 1, but you don't have, they're not saying at the end of the term. So in other words, you wouldn't have a situation where you've got some people making different amounts. I think you would want to avoid having different members of council being paid.
I mean, we'd like to avoid it, we're just trying to figure out how. So is that why they put the odd number of years in your
So
thing?
Bill, not next term, but the term after that. No, that'd be 6
You
years.
know what?
I think we have to trust them that they're not gonna.
You know what, I agree, and I agree with what Sarai said. I think that makes the most sense. I agree with what Sarai said, and I think as much as it causes me to want to vomit, the idea that I'm giving politicians the ability to give themselves a raise, I don't know that we can avoid this. And I think that Sarai's suggestion is is the most fair thing that I have heard.
Here's another thing, the way this read, you could change it, the way these sections read, salary of all elected officials, so it's not just
Right.
council, it's also mayor, and depending on the responsibilities the mayor has, council may have a legitimate need to adjust the salary of the mayor,
Yes.
say, because they're just taking on more responsibility or something, you know what I mean? So
Right.
there's
So Sarai, sum up again, I'm sorry what you said. 'cause-
That if we make these salaries effective as of the coming January 1st, so say the council has to get together, they have to like readjust salaries, they're looking at it and they go, we have to fix this. And they get it all sorted through and then it has to be voted on? Okay, so it has to be sorted through by the 1st of August, so that it can go on the ballot. And then if it passes, make it effective for January.
Somebody coming for office. Somebody running.
It doesn't go on the ballot.
Okay, so it doesn't go on the ballot, that was the
Just-
part that I like totally missed,
Okay,
but
it doesn't go
we're
on the ballot.
but then it still has to be voted on by the council, and then you make it effective January first of the following year. And, I mean,
you could do that, yeah.
or you can say it's gonna be 6 months after it's been voted on by council, or you,
I like January 1st because the newly elected people will start getting that salary and the money we're in office.
So-
That's-
So then we limit it to,
Percentage.
I think if we're gonna do it this way, you got
well, no, you're limited to council election years, not even odd, but council election years. So if there is a council seat on the ballot, it needs the, whatever salary change needs to be known
Yeah,
before petitions are due. And then it would change effective in January for everybody, when that new council person is sat. And I kind of like.
Oh, yeah, okay, I like that.
I like the language of, a council person election, because then if it's the situation that you're a replacement person, you get another bite at the apple.
Right.
So
And the
on,
mayor's, increase would then take place until that election.
So Kelly.
So it's happening at least every 2 years.
if everyone's okay with that, I'm gonna write it down and not scribble out anymore.
Okay, good.
I think that's do members ever address healthcare benefits provided by the city?
Well, not in detail, but, like, if you look at, section 4.04 of the New Albany Charter, it talks about councils, establishing, annual compensation and benefits. So it'd just be
It'd be a high level.
you're not getting into the weeds about, you're gonna have a goal plan or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, we have it in our ordinances, exactly.
Well, but, that would be an ordinance, not a charter.
All right, let's jump into these two. All right, so I'll fight it out.
We have 10 minutes to find out 7 minutes, but we made it through everything else.
Well, wait, I have a question. Did we wade through rules on council meetings? Was that a yes?
No, we just said there should be.
We
There
just,
should be a
we just said.
Okay, we just, we have that
General
language.
language, yeah, he's gonna use.
All right, so we addressed number 7, will mayor be a member of council? No.
No.
And if so, it doesn't matter, because they're not. Number 8, if the mayor is not the presiding officer of the council, how is the president of council selected?
Can I go back to sentence?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen it where the mayor is not a member of council, but can sit in council meetings. In other words, or is asked to sit in council meetings. In other words, so the person there asks questions, et cetera.
Well, would that be under the mayor's?
That'd fall under duties of mayor, I would think.
But I've seen it where it says the non-member of council, but did it in the council.
Well, and plus, the council meetings are gonna be public meetings anyway, so.
But I mean, like having a seat at the table, not like in the audience.
Yeah, but I think that would be a duty of the mayor. We would say it is a duty of the mayor to attend council meetings and provide input as necessary.
I understand what you're getting at, I suppose, so what Pam is basically saying is, if we want to require the mayor to be at council meetings, that would be under the duties of mayor in the mayor article, but what she's saying is, the mayor isn't gonna just sit in the pews with the rest of the, citizens, they're gonna sit up at the council table.
Yeah.
Would that fall under maybe, rules on council meetings, we just say, the council shall allow a seat to be available?
Well,
For the mayor.
I think that for the purposes of tonight, with 10 minutes left, that would
Yeah.
address that under the mayor.
I think that's where it is addressed.
Oh,
Yeah, it says
okay.
that the mayor is not a member of council, however, they don't take that.
So number 8, if the mayor is not the presiding officer of council, which is the path we've gone, how is the president of council selected? I feel like we touched on that.
We did.
too.
we already did.
So we've done all of them.
Yes.
Kelly, do you have any questions or things that you need us to talk through as a group so that you can do what you have to do, which is write a bunch of stuff?
Give me 15 seconds to scan through.
Okay, I will stall.
Man.
Who?
That's why that was
No,
just all.
I'm not- I am not tap dancing though. As far as coming to the meetings on the board, I know that people have got meetings they're gonna miss. I'll be honest, I'm gonna cross out the calendars. If you're not gonna be able to make a meeting, can you shoot me an email with a date you can't make? So I can update on the calendar instead of just telling me in person, because the brain's just not gonna retain it. Thank you.
Never part, email that.
Yes. Appreciate it.
So we actually did not answer 7 and 8. I am so sorry.
7 is no.
Well, no, sorry. We skipped over 7 and 8 because of a key issue. The key issue is, okay, we've agreed the mayor will not be a member of council.
So that's 7.
Right. And we have agreed on how the president pro tem is being selected.
And the council president.
And the council president, all of that. That's fine. We have 7 council members, fine. How are tie votes being handled?
There are no tiebreaker votes.
Don't have a tiebreaker.
We've decided, so I missed where we decided that.
Right, we're on a tiebreaker now. just.
That's- see,
Sam's
no,
still-
no,
No,
I think you're right.
It didn't, it wasn't.
We agreed to table it till later.
Yeah, you're
and
right,
now
we
it's
did.
later.
You're right. That's the point. No, you're right. We didn't decide one way or the other. So,
Mayor, students, the mayor.
I like
So,
where your head's at.
because we were not, there was not a consensus in the room on how tiebreaker votes were to be handled.
So our choices that were put out so far, before we start debating them, let's clarify what they were. Tiebreaker, one of the choices put forth was the mayor is the tiebreaker. What were the other choices put forth?
The mayor isn't the tiebreaker.
And then there is no tiebreaker.
And then there just is no
Think
tiebreaker.
What were the other choices put forward?
That there is no tiebreaker or the mayor's tiebreaker.
Okay, so those are the two. Are there any other options that creative thinkers can think of? Huh?
There are no other options.
All four of us.
There are no other options, either she is or she is not.
They,
Question,
sir,
if,
He,
right now, I think the mayor kind of organizes the agenda for council meetings. The mayor is paid money to do that. Council right now is nominally paid. That's a fairly significant task, I think, organizing the agenda and running the meeting. So President Pro Tem does that. Who organizes the council meetings and runs it?
Yeah, I'm
Under what we're writing in
I'm-
this charter, it would be the president of council.
president of council.
Okay,
so council can figure that out themselves. I think. If they
I'm
choose
just
to
a
not
little
be
concerned
president.
about the volume of work involved.
But I think that we've got 4
volunteer
minutes left in the
position.
meeting, so I really want to figure out the
They-
tiebreaker.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they pay the council more, and maybe the president of council.
That's part of the reason that we want them to make a little more money.
So back to the tiebreaker.
So we've got, it seems like we've got some differences, some like fundamental differences of opinion on whether the mayor should be a tiebreaker vote or not.
I don't just hear what people say and we go with it, and then, you know, if things,
Do we have time in 3 minutes to hear what people say, or do we table it until the mayor discussion?
we need to finish this tonight. so
we could,
that
we
will really go
could
over.
all go
This is
out
the
and
last
see
thing we can
examples of other things and see how other people, how often they act as opposed to be.
I'm just asking for a commitment from the group, are we good with moving forward, finishing this discussion right now?
I don't think it's gonna take an hour.
I don't either. I don't think it's gonna take very
All
much
right,
time at all.
so I would like to just get, because there are some people who are louder voices than others, I would like to just go around the table and have everyone speak to what their opinion is. And I'm gonna start with Evan.
I knew you were gonna say that.
It was either you or going this way, I feel loud.
Honestly, I agree with Sarai. I think that, you know, we elect the mayor, so we should put our trust on the mayor, and if they do a bad job, we don't, we get them out of office. Like, that's sort of what we should do. So I think that the mayor should serve as tiebreaker.
All right.
Skip me and come back.
No.
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 Change my mind.
We're not 350 million people or 250 million, whatever it is. We're not operating at a national scale. I don't think the mayor should be a tiebreaker vote because I think that the legislation that is being proposed should, unless it is actually a true emergency, should be given plenty of time to be voiced. And if the council members feel it's important to vote on it, they will be there. And we have 7 council members, so there should be rarely a tie vote. And I think that having the mayor be separated from the legislative process as much as possible is a good thing.
Sarai?
So I still think that the mayor should be the tiebreaker, in part because, as I said earlier, we've already put our trust into the mayor by voting them into position. And then I think that the likelihood of them ever actually having to fulfill that role is actually pretty small if we have 7 council members. But I think that there is going to be times when things need to, like, keep going. You can't just have the government grind to a halt just because, like, somebody's had the flu for 3 weeks. So you've got to keep going with your government.
All right.
I agree, ditto to Kelly. I don't know whether they are.
I,
Brian,
I'm sorry, can I very briefly add something I believe is an objective point rather than a matter of an opinion? It's not just a matter of a council member being absent, but there are a number of reasons why a council member may abstain from a vote. And that may result in a tie as well.
thank you. We'll call out Brian.
I think it's a big portion of what we're doing is engaging in drawing our lines of checks and balances, right? We increase the number of council members as a buffer against this scenario to then turn around and give back that tie-breaking vote for the mayor is muddying the check and balance that we have just worked so hard to create.
How often do we
Yeah.
enter into a time-breaking situation?
It's anytime.
Really rare.
It's a hypothetical.
All right, I believe in the issue of tie-breaking. I agree with you that it will not be the large, however, it's a team effort, and I'm gonna take time on being there. I don't feel like in some part of it, very infrequent, but some part of the team.
I think the mayor should be the tiebreaker. One, it's at the executive level, and the executive should see that things move forward. And two, I would like to say shall be the tiebreaker, because I've seen times where the mayor didn't have the brass to do it. Say, no, I'm not gonna agree, and doesn't vote at all. And so, and there are things that would have gotten done in this village had she, voted. Nina.
I actually agree with, Kelly and Brian, and, my secondary position is that if it goes to, if we end up as a group agreeing to shall, that have, very clear.
To go on that. I agree with the separation of powers. I agree it's important enough seven council members will show up to vote. I also don't necessarily want to put the mayor in a position of, what's it called, when you have to call even if you don't know.
Suck.
Yeah, I almost stick the mayor. I mean, if it's so important, if everybody is by, I don't want the mayor to have to make a call that she doesn't want to make, or feel comfortable to make, or he, just because that's how we wrote the Constitution. I don't think that's fair to them or to the village.
And you know, on your, what you said, well, both of you said to keep things rolling. You know, for me, keeping things rolling is, I'm only thinking about issues that have something to do with money or allocation of funds. The other things, the things.
That's the way that's most important to me.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying is that those are not the issues that have required her to be the tiebreaker. It's the stuff that the council is honestly divided on, and they have not spent enough time discussing it amongst themselves, and they haven't done enough talking to the village about it. This tiebreaker, her voting the tiebreaker has been, it's been an issue. It's been an issue, not because she shouldn't have it or should have the right to do so. The point is that she's come down. Either way, it's been an unpopular decision because the council has been so divided, and they should not be divided like that.
I have a question for Paul, actually.
And for clarification, for the
Yeah,
mayor, we keep saying she just because it's convenient.
Yeah.
It's not personal to the person.
And that's why we have a mayor, to make.
Paul, are there any examples anywhere that in your experience of a scheme requiring the president of council to vote last and then requiring the president of council to be a tiebreaker when necessary? I know that's maybe a little weird, but
Well, what
I
if,
mean, I haven't seen it, that doesn't exist.
what if it's the president of council who's missing?
but that's it. But so I was just thinking that through.
Are we overcomplicating?
Yeah.
We are. We're way over.
Never mind.
Because that.
You're just thinking yourself back in the same hole in a.
Right.
Just think,
That's not last.
I do think you have a good point though. You make a really valid point that the issues that perhaps should have more, research
Yeah,
and locations of the.
And more
votes are the
time.
ones that really.
are the ones that have caused the tiebreaker votes. Those are the ones. It's not the ones that keep the village running. It's not the money.
Some of those other ones are big things.
I'm not saying that they weren't important, and I'm not saying that mistakes weren't made. I'm saying that it's not like people aren't gonna be paid, or we can't,
Police shuts down.
or, yeah, or the police department shuts down, or what,
We don't know.
Right, but
You don't know.
Then I'm gonna change my vote, go with you and no mayor either. If
No, I
that's really
understand.
what happens, is.
that's usually what happens.
Isn't this why we're adding a seventh person?
Yes. Why we're
Let's go
adding-
with that, that's what we're doing.
I hope we're minimizing.
Right, no time.
All right, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Wait.
Rena, just to be clear on expectations, Rena and I talked, the expectation is that I will not be bringing copies of the notes.
Correct. We're not, we're
Save the trees.
Thank you very much.
Did anybody move that last Harvey Dent?
Adjourned, have a good evening, all. Thank you.
I think, last night, right?
No, that was last